to warn everybody you're on television now when you get up to the front.
Okay, so please no swearing.
Yeah.
Keep your clothes on.
Well, I was going to say, welcome everybody, and it's nice to see you. Kind of missed Rick. Anyways,
Glad to be back.
glad to be back. It's nice to see a full group up here. It's been a long winter. And we have a fairly big agenda, so we want to get going, and we have a couple exciting things on the board. So, disclosure any pecuniary interest in the municipal conflict of interest act. Anybody got any conflicts? Okay, very nice. We don't have any closed sessions, so minutes of the previous meeting, April 1st. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smith, second by Councilor Caldwell, the minutes of April 1st, 2014 council meeting be approved as circulated. All in favor? Additional items, discussed as other business. Anybody got any additional items? I think I have you have one. So. I think I only have one. Anybody else? Three? No? If anybody thinks of anything, by all means, let us know and get there. Now, did you want to just go to Kelsey then? Okay. No. Moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Falcon, that the town of Minto convenes in the committee of whole to consider two public meetings. All in favor? Okay. Now, can I have a motion from council that we can maybe move Kelsey up so she doesn't have to stay up all night and listen to the rest of us, and move her delegation. Moved by Councilor Ford, second by Councilor Hamley, all in favor? Great, and Kelsey, I want you to come on up, and we've got Kelsey Rose McDonald here tonight, and she's going to kind of do a story of your career, so to speak, and what you've been up to, and I believe you want a picture of us later with you?
Yes.
So we may come down and visit you down there later. Okay, so if you want to, you have to use the mic, so make sure you get close to that. You can pick it up, yeah, sit down, or you can pick up the mic if you want to run around.
A lot of orders being given out here tonight. Yes, you do whatever you like.
You know what, I feel like a coach on it.
Okay.
All right, you go ahead.
Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. I am a Special Olympics figure skater. When I was 5 years old, I was in skating, but as I got older, it was getting harder, so my mom decided to take a break from it for a little bit. When I was in public school, I was involved in activities including bowling, swimming, and track and field. I was winning lots of medals and trophies in my event. For track and field, I qualified for provincials in Windsor in 2009. There I got 2 silver medals, one in running long jump and also in the 4x400 relay. As I got older and ready to graduate, I wanted to find something else I could do. At school, there is a boy, Lewis, who isn't verbal and who is a figure skater. His mom asked me if I wanted to try out figure skating at the club he was skating at. So I went to try it out, and what do you know? I was in skating again. My first competition was in 2008, and it was just a single competition, and I ended up with 2 gold medals at my very first competition. Then as 2009 came, Lewis and I decided we would try out doing pairs and see how we would do. The competition came, and in both pairs and singles, we racked up quite a few medals, many of them being gold. We didn't find out till later on that at that competition, it was qualifying for provincials in 2011. June came, and there's something in the mail. I couldn't wait to open it. I finally opened it, and inside was a letter. It said, "Congratulations, you have made it to provincials in Thunder Bay." Both Lewis and I made it for pairs and for singles. All of our hard work paid off, and we now had extra training ahead of us for Thunder Bay. I started jogging and exercising at the gym in Louisville. Skating got busier as I then had increased my skating to 3 or 4 days a week, and also winter school. There were meetings and no one signed for my uniform, and I had to start fundraising. This was my first time ever that I had to raise money for anything. I managed to raise the money for my uniform. 2011 came pretty quick, and it was competition time. At the end of the competition, in pairs, we came second, and for me in singles, I got gold in my dance and 4th overall in my free skate. Thunder Bay is where my mom and I met my coach, Julie Dunlop, as she is the coach for Region 4. My mom was watching how she was coaching, and afterwards said to her, "You did a really good job. Julie then told my mom if I wanted to come to Kincardine where she coaches, I was welcome to. A few months later, we went to Kincardine, and in just the first day, I learned a lot of new skating things that I should have already learned but did not know. My mom told Julie that she had a dream that I was at Thunder Bay and that I was to start saying when I go to provincials, not if. A few months later in June, I found out I qualified from Thunder Bay to go to nationals in St. Albert in Alberta in 2012. I was excited as most of my family lives there and I would be able to see them. July came and my grandpa, who was excited to see me skate, passed away. I then decided I was going to skate my free skate program in Alberta in honor of my grandpa. I ended up doing lots of training to get myself ready for this big competition and skate my best. February of 2012 came, and it was time for nationals. I performed my elements and danced and waited for results to come in for that. I ended up sitting in first in elements and fourth in dance. Next was my free skate. My coach wished me good luck, and away I went. I performed an amazing program and was very proud of myself. Next was the long wait for the results, and I was up and down as I was so anxious to find out if I placed or not. Finally, the results were in, and my coach was yelling at me from downstairs, Kelsey Rose, you got second place. I screamed and had to go make sure, and what do you know, it was right. Against 9 girls in all of Canada, I won a silver medal. It was time for the medal ceremony, and right before they called people up, I'd seen Jamie Slay and wanted to get a picture with her. When it was my turn to go up, Jamie Slay put the medal around my neck. I was very lucky. We finally all got a group picture, and I said, Jamie, sit here, sit here. She said, I don't want to sit in your dress. I said, I don't care, just sit. So she did. Best memory ever. 2013 has been a rough year for me. I ended up dealing with many health issues and trying to figure out things along with my training and practicing for my skating and competitions. I had one competition on November 30th, 2013, and it was a struggle. I performed my elements and came second. Next was my dance and came second in that, which I was very proud of. Next came my free skate, and I was off right from the beginning, dizzy, and had one fall because of balance issues. When I was done, I was not happy with how I performed and was pretty upset. I knew I could do better than that, but Mom said I had to put it behind me and keep on practicing. 2014, the doctors are still trying to figure out what is wrong with me, sending for many tests. My health has not slowed me down a bit, but I'm not letting this stop me from doing something I love and will not give up on ever. Just a few weeks ago, my coach messaged me and asked if I wanted to go to Iceland. I couldn't believe my eyes. I let my mom know the next morning, and she said that if I wanted to go, then I'd have to fight through all my health issues and keep on skating and try to get myself physically stronger. I jumped right to it and said, yes, Julie, I'd love to go with you. I leave this May 19th to the 27th, and I'm very excited. At one of my skating lessons this year, I had a nasty fall on the ice. I fell backwards and ended up with my first concussion. I actually went back on the ice and continued skating, and it was not until the next day that my mom realized that I had a concussion. I went out and got myself a helmet that I wear for practices. I would never have been able to go to Thunder Bay, Alberta, nor Iceland if it were not for the many service clubs, individual sponsors who believe in me. This competition is an international competition, and I am the only Special Olympics figure skater representing Canada. As you can see from my pictures, I've been involved in bowling, swimming, torch run, and track. I will never give up on my dream. This trip is not sponsored by Skate Canada, so I have to do all the fundraising by myself. It has been a lot of hard work. So far, I've spoken to the Oculus Club, Lions, Rotary Club. I have been to Walmart, Harrison Flower Shop 4 times, and still have to set up a table at Zara's. I also have a silent auction set up on Facebook. I have had many wonderful gift items that people have donated towards my trip. I have not met my goal for my trip to Iceland and still have a lot of fundraising left to do if I wish to go. I just came home from a skating competition in Thornhill and managed to skate my Waka Waka free skate program without any mistakes. That was the very first time I've managed to do that. Both my mom and my coach, Julie, were very proud. At the end of the competition, I got a gold medal and 2 silvers. I hope you'll be able to come home from Iceland with many stories of skating and all of the wonderful people I've met, and not to mention touring Iceland. Thank you for allowing me to come up here and speak to you tonight, and thank you all for listening.
You want us to come over? Any questions?
Just
One, why is it not covered by state Canada?
Because the competition is outside of Canada. I don't really know.
Okay.
To be totally true.
Thank you. It's a shame.
Well, we'll go around and Kelsey wants a picture of us around there, so everybody can do that. This is the first time we've ever tried this, Kelsey, so we, we want to get it right. We don't have to keep practicing. Looks like we got it. Right up here, I think. Kelsey wants to come up. Where do you want us? Yes.
Do you want that microphone?
Yes, please.
Can you stand over this guy so you don't break?
See, everybody's taller than me.
Stand up to her.
We're done.
Smile, this is what everybody else does. One more.
Great.
Yeah. Didn't think we would count.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Good.
Come outside.
I will for sure.
Okay, keep
Okay.
it up, moving right down.
Thank you.
Get it? Okay. No.
Oh, sure. Yeah. 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 On the slide. Here, we got the pictures. I didn't know. Great. Yeah. I think so. We could, yes. I wasn't sure that the board had already done that or not. Yes.
This is many of my pictures. This is in Windsor. My sister. This is my first provincials. This was Windsor for track and field. One of the fundraisers I did with Lewis, my skating partner then. More of my skating. This is my coach Julie. More of my skating. This is Jeffrey Buttle's mom, Leslie Buttle. She made my skating dress for my free skate. This is my mom with my bowling trophies. My many makeup artists, something I love getting done, makeup and hair. There's Jamie Soleil and I. Another makeup artist.
Good job.
That's Paul Poirier. He was one of the judges last year in Thornhill. This is me and Thunder Ray getting my silver medal for dance. Lewis and I doing our pairs. This is my grandpa that passed away. Practicing skating. That's ballet that I did. One of my spins that I'm going into. Some of the skaters I met on Stars and Ice. Charlie White. Can't remember them. Caitlin Weaver. That's where I came for 2 years ago. That was my first time doing level 3. Learning how to jump, that was not fun. As the whole team that was in Alberta that skated. It's one of my favorite spirals to do. It's my cousins and I, part of the team. Cynthia Knopf, we met her. Meryl Davis, jumping again. Ashley White. 3 of my good friends. Getting my silver medal. One of the coaches that were there with me, Janet. My ballet people that were there with me. Yes, and there's my hair. This is my family. It's one of my jumps. Another makeup artist. Another one. Every year I've had someone different for makeup. Our bowling team with all our trophies. Me with speaking at one of the clubs. Escape. Playing t-ball. Yep. Me collecting trophies. That was me skating at the gala. One of my sponsors. And we doing shot put in Windsor. Yeah. Thank you.
So, I maybe mention it. Well, thanks, Kelsey, very much. Wish you luck in Iceland. And by the way, I know we just talked to our treasurer. You can qualify again for that $300 from the town under the special program. So make sure you apply, and I'm sure that town council would be pretty happy to for that as well.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
Kelsey, you're not bringing this weather? It's like Iceland?
Yeah, Iceland's
Here.
I was told Iceland was green, Greenland was ice. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're right. You asserted that properly. We're gonna get into public meetings now, and this public meeting is to consider amendment to the County of Wellington official plan, the Town of Minto zoning bylaw amendment for property located at Park Lot 2 SS Main Street, Palmerston, Town of Minto. I'll act as the chair of the public meeting. Call the meeting to order and request any member of the public present to sign the attendance record book. Let's see, following, a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the County of Wellington before the bylaw adopting the official plan amendment is passed, or the Town of Minto before the zoning bylaw is passed. The person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the County of Wellington to the Ontario Municipal Board. And the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the board unless an opinion of the board there are reasonable grounds to do so. I'll now turn it over to CEO Clerk White to state the municipal address and legal description of the property and purpose and effect of the application. The date notice was sent.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The property subject to the proposed amendments is part lot 2, south side of Main Street, Palmerston, and the address is 107 William Street. The proposed official plan amendment is to redesignate the property from central business district to residential transition. This will have the effect of permitting residential apartments at street level. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the property to appropriate zone to permit residential apartments on the ground floor of the existing building. Notices were mailed to property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the property and to applicable agencies and posted on the lands March 27, 2014. The following comments were received from staff and commenting agencies. Town of Minto, there's a clerk's assistant report that is attached to your presentation, brings you your agenda. The staff and the CEO, clerks, public works department, chief building official, economic development manager, and fire chief met to review the application and offered the following comments. The owner doesn't have to provide parking. The local town does have 6 parking spaces behind the current building. The change in use may require additional increased water or lateral water meter installations. The bakery business owner currently leasing the storefront, and while the business is for sale, she is not aware of the proposed application. There are other comments in that report. Recommendation is that council receive that information and consider that as part of the amendment proposal. County of Wellington planner Mark Patter is here and has a report as well. Also received a letter April 14th from David Weaver, 520 Main Street East. This is the right one. I don't think this is pertaining to you.
That's the other one.
That's all the comments, Mayor Bridge.
Mark, did you want to?
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Well, this seems to be a small application. It's quite a difficult application to deal with. So I'm going to go through my comments in some detail. And I just note my comments that I've given so far, we should consider as preliminary because I want to see what came out of the public meeting, sort of what the feelings were. The property we're dealing with is 107 William Street in Palmerston, 3,000 square feet in size. And so I mentioned it's designated central business district. And the official plan, and what's being proposed is to redesignate it to residential transition. And in the zoning bylaw, it is also zoned downtown commercial. And what the proposal is to have residential units on the ground floor of the building, which is not in conformity with the county's official plan. That's why we need to have an official plan and a zoning bylaw. So in terms of the official plan, this is really one of the main policies that states in the official plan that residential development may be permitted within the designation, provided that the retail, office, or service commercial uses are located at the street level. So really what that's saying is that the front of the building has to have a commercial use. And it makes sense. It's part of the main business area of the downtown. You don't want that getting incrementally chipped away by, during tough times when people are having a hard time finding renters who want to maintain that space. So I think just trying to find that balance of what's too much and what's not enough. So in the zoning bylaw, currently it's on central commercial, and I know there's an error in the second line there. It says residential dwelling units have to be accessory to a residential use. That should read commercial use. So in order to have an apartment, you have to be accessory to a commercial use in the downtown. And not only that, but it has to be behind or above the commercial use. So same thing as the official plan, basically. The bylaw goes on to state that on the ground floor, that at least 51% of the front of the building, the square footage has to be commercial use. And the rear part, up to 49% can be residential. So that's kind of the, the playing field that we're dealing with here, what's required. In terms of the agency comments received, I didn't really receive any comments worth, talking about or detailing any further. Some of the planning considerations, just in terms of the application itself, the subject property, my understanding there's 3 apartments upstairs, and currently there's, in the recent past, there's been 2 commercial uses, a coffee shop, which doesn't look open now. It's about takes up about 3/4 of the use, and the bakery, which is open, is taking up about 1/4 of the main floor use. In terms of the neighboring use, I wanted to get a feeling for the downtown, so I walked around. I didn't actually do the main street, but I took the secondary streets, which are James Street and William Street, and I did an inventory of what buildings are there and what the uses were. And you can see on William Street to the south, well, there's the existing bake shop there. There's also 3 other commercial uses, Deb's Hair Design, Coach House Realty, Minto Express, and then across the street, L&M Groceries, the Home Hardware. So there's a fair number of commercial uses on William Street. And when we go to James Street, there's very little on James Street. It's mainly residential uses. There's a few where there's at least 1 or 2 commercial uses, but it's mainly residential. So in my mind, William Street's quite a bit more important than James Street is. If we carry on to page 4 of my comments, I do make the point that on James Street, the residential uses, if they ever, the buildings ever fall down, then the official plan will require that they go back up, they have a commercial use at the front, which may be a bit of a hardship. So in my mind, I think there may be a bit too much downtown commercial designation in Palmerston. I think that's really what we're wrestling with. And I think that James Street probably, is the poorest section of the downtown in terms of commercial. William Street is somewhere in the middle. In terms of the loss of the central business district, that's really what we're trying to grapple with. We need to protect the downtown core, and the official plan requires that of all the urban areas in the county. And so, the flip side of that is if you're over designated, then property owners, you can't find commercial uses, and you're stuck with having vacant street front stores. So that's really the 2 ends of the poles that we're dealing with here. And I did spend a bit of time in my comments talking about the residential transition zone, just as not suggesting that I'm supporting the official plan amendment at this point, but just that if the council did support it, then the logical place to go is to redesignate it to residential transition. And to get that in your mind, it's near the downtown core, you often see older houses, large Victorian houses that are split up, and they've got commercial on the ground floor and apartments above. And then as you get further from the downtown core, you get into the residential parts of town, the pure residential. So it's kind of a transition area, and there's more flexibility there. Normally, the transition area doesn't allow retail use because you don't want to compete with the downtown core. However, Palmerston, it's Main Street residential transition. There's mixed use zone does allow retail, so there's some flexibility there. So if council did support the OPA, then I would suggest that's where you probably should go with the zoning. Now, in terms of if you did support the OPA, one of the other areas you want to consider, I think, is how it's going to look. Kind of residential use there. There's looks like an apartment building immediately to the left of the subject land. It looks fairly good, the front of it. So I think you'd want to make sure that the front end would look well. And I mean, There's even a question as whether or not you want to have access along the front end, or whether you just want to have people accessing it from the back end, so the use doesn't spill onto the street. Just a couple of technical things. Even in the downtown core, if you have accessory apartments, the bylaw requires one parking space per residential use. So in this case, right now, they're required to have 3 parking spaces. I understand they're using, the town parking area. But that's what the requirement is in the bylaw. And also, if this building does go through 6 apartments, then I don't think they've got enough room, so they need some kind of relief for the bylaw. 6 apartments into 3,000 square feet, that's 500 square feet. And the bylaw requires 538 square feet as a minimum size, so, I think it's okay to go below that. If council does support, we have to make sure we recognize it was owned by law. Now, having said all of that, in my mind, if council decides they can't support the efficient plan amendment, there is a bit of middle ground. Right now, there's no apartments on the ground floor, so the owners could put possibly up to 2 apartments on the ground floor, but keep enough space in the front of the building for office use or something commercial. And the bylaw allows 49%. You could stretch that and make more than 49% of apartments. I think the critical thing is that the front part stay commercial if you're going to go that way. So you might go up to allow 60 or even 70% of the bottom floor of the apartments, as long as there's a commercial look to the front of the building and some space there. But I don't know how that works in with the existing bake shop and how that one would fit, but just some thoughts for now. So I think when I started into this, I was a little more supportive of the idea of residential use. I think I'm a little bit less supportive now, and part of that is having some discussions with Linda about economic development and the fact that the 2009 Community Improvement Plan identifies as one of the streets on the Community Improvement Plan, as well as your 2008 Streetscape Plan. Is there in the head, there was work done on the streets, so I think that, in my mind, heightens important as a commercial street. So I think that's maybe all I'll state at this
Did you want to ask questions?
Sure, if
Later,
there's any
do you want to do
questions.
now, or do you want to?
Well, just the one that actually has nothing to do with that one property. It was a comment that Mark made in respect to Jane Street.
James.
Sorry, then I was referring to the wrong street. I thought you said Jane, sorry.
No, James.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Mayor Bridger, I should have mentioned that the Downtown Revitalization Committee did look at this application and has concern with the loss of the usable space and how the residential use might interrelate with the sidewalk, as there's no outdoor space for residential occupants. The other question I had was if council preferred the intervening option you mentioned, and of course they haven't heard anything from anyone else yet, but does that need an official plan amendment to do this?
No, I don't think so. I think the important part is as long as the street fronts commercial, I think we can bend the zoning bylaw a little bit.
To help with the back.
If council wants to. It's kind of the middle ground.
Well, you want to
Here, Al, I can wait to ask questions later.
wait, and
Sure.
then we'll go through everybody else, and then we'll
Sure.
talk about it a bit more.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Mark. You're gonna hang in there anyways. Okay.
Make the storm stay though.
I'm calling the applicant or an agent to make comments regarding the proposed applicant. Sandra? Just as long as whoever's talking, make sure you're talking to the mic, otherwise we get these nasty calls where people say they didn't hear you.
So that means Sandy doing the talking yet, or?
Good evening, council. I wrote down a few things that Mark said, and
I want to be very honest here. We've had trouble, we had to actually change insurance companies for the building. There's so much of the building vacant currently that a lot of the insurance companies do not want to touch you. Because it's a downtown property and there is a lot of it vacant, we actually last year had to change insurance companies, which made us look at what can we do with this building. There's a lot of square footage that is not being utilized, and that's why we sat down and made this proposal up. And as I can appreciate, there's an economic development plan. That's not really helping the fact that there's nothing in there and has been nothing for several years. And so we're concerned that it's getting harder to get that insurance on these buildings, and then what do you do with them? So as I can appreciate an economical development plan, yeah, that's not really addressing the fact that as a business owner of a building, what are we supposed to do with them? So that was our very biggest concern, which is why we're here at all. Because we know that we were told if it was apartments or if there were more of the building rented, that wouldn't have been as much of an issue.
Another point I'd like to bring up, the building itself is roughly 50 by 60. So that's 3,000 square feet bottom floor. Market's not one enough square footage, but then also the second floor is on top of that 3,000 square feet. So the 500 square feet isn't an issue per apartment. Our store that we copied up used to be in Metro for almost 2 years. Water and sewage and taxes are killing us, especially water and sewage. You know, you're still paying half price on it, you don't even get no revenue from. The main purpose of this is to give us the option of putting apartments in. It's not going to do it right away. We don't want to, lose Dawn. We're not necessarily going to affect her. But give us the option that we can put apartments in, and see once we sit there for 3 years, we need something to make it viable for us. Unless you guys are going to cut taxes and water sewage. They work too.
Well, I'm not running for council next term, so I'm gonna say no.
Anyway, now, this proposal possibility of keeping some of it as commercial at the front and doing the apartments at the back. Are
The
you,
problem
we
with
haven't
that
talked
is,
about, I know you just got that sort of tonight probably. Or,
no, I talked to Martin.
Okay,
The problem is, originally, this building was 3 individual buildings. So it's got a firewall down the length, which makes it very difficult, because they're all, obviously supporting structure. So it'll be expensive to try to take out that, retaining all the firewalls between the buildings, which is why we come up with this plan, because then we can build 3 good size ground floor apartments, 2 bedrooms each one.
And the other thing that we were thinking is, we've done some research, and if you open up the paper, you'll notice Palmerston doesn't have a lot of rental units. So this is not something that we just said, oh, well, this is what we could do. Palmerston actually, if you look at a paper, which we've done over the past 2 years, there are not a lot of rental units available. The other target market that we are looking at is because it's ground floor. We were hoping actually, because we had been thinking about the parking being an issue, is to address the fact that anyone that maybe have disabilities or someone older, it would be a very good place for them to reside because it's right on the main floor. And we were thinking demographically, Palmerston has an older population. So it is right across from the L&M. Yes, it's on the side, but it would be very good for older people or someone disabled because there aren't a lot of up and down or a lot of steps. So they could go out, go down that nice curb that was just made over to the L&M and get their groceries. They could go to the library. Again, it's very accessible because of all the work that's been done, and the streets are really nice that anybody in a wheelchair, anybody with walkers, it would be very good for them as far as accessibility to the services that Palmerston has. So we were looking at kind of a target market.
Another thing I like to bring up too, Mark talked about you know, and brought up the commercial, loss of commercial properties. On the Main Street alone, there's 5 and 6 buildings that are vacant or for rent. That's on the Main Street, which is, you know, your rent's home, it's usually a prime spot we want to get, so. Generally that much sitting empty, plus ours.
Some of them aren't running.
True.
I mean, that's one of the problems, like, some of them aren't running. And that's not our, you know, we've been working on that, but unfortunately, we haven't got power to force any more issues than what we've been doing already, so.
And there's a couple of new businesses that will be filling in the stores pretty shortly.
The other thing that we thought was a positive is if we do something like this, we'll be completely gutting that building and starting from scratch. So it will be, you know, rewired, it will be, so, and the outside will definitely be reclad and everything. We thought that was a positive for the town because it will look a lot nicer than it currently does. And it is hard if you have, like, to address what you just said. It is difficult as a building owner because businesses are different and want to occupy different spaces. And you can't always accommodate every business. So some want this much and some want that much. It is difficult if you own a building. But we thought that this would actually be quite nice because it will be redone. So it will look neat.
You talked about the residential at the back and the commercial at the front, right? Basically, it won't be a big deal to change that over.
No, I think, you know, you have a zoning bylaw amendment open now, so we can do that.
Because the one thing is, what if a business comes in there and would like the whole bottom story? Is there any way that then they can delete the residential end of it?
Oh, yeah, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I guess all new stuff to me, like we discussed, basically either commercial or residential. And, you know, that was new to me with Mark, you know, with the residential back and forth.
Combination.
And see, as an economic development, the chairman of economic development, I have to support the commercial front end of it, to be honest with you. Because that's one reason I got into politics, was for the business industry in this community. So it's not like what Mark presented, the half and half. That's
But then
that's
now-
just my opinion.
As you just said though, you've got new business going out the other end of town, which leaves your downtown core still empty.
No, it doesn't, because we've got a couple new businesses coming in downtown core right now. So when you say we have 5 or 6 empty stores, I don't think we have 5 or 6, we may have 2 or 3 maybe.
We actually went downtown.
Okay, so what do you got?
The bookery, where the bookery used to be, that is empty. Beckers, the old hardware, one of those hardware is empty. The old pharmacy has, the pharmacy has, friends sign up. Palmer's empty, the old CIBC, you know,
So you know, probably 2 of those 5 will be filled.
so it's good.
Yes, killer questions. If it was changed over to residential, I have for this park, and you were concerned about what it would look like, if we could put site plan control on that, could we not, to address that issue so that it wasn't to our liking or to what it is feasible for put there, we have control on something.
Yeah, you can use, you know, you should use site plan control
Something should.
on that to look at, you know, the facade and the cladding of the building and stuff like that. But, you know, I think you could make it so it's a nice looking residential unit, but I guess you're counterposing against that is whether you're losing that commercial space, because once it goes one way, probably not going to go back.
Probably true.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. I guess, for you two, vacant commercial, if you had any bites at all, and really want no interest, you should certainly have the group that you want.
We got a couple guys playing poker on one side. Seriously,
Yeah, okay, that's,
and somebody using it for heat and building. It's not just putting it in.
other than that,
Other than that, nothing.
And there's still a huge portion of it
if,
with nothing.
if you were to make it residential and you would lose the bake shop, is there another place for it to go, or?
That's the thing though, because of what we, the way we have it, we're not gonna do anything right away. And it's, we're gonna do 3, we would like to do 3, eventually 3 apartments. running enterprise. We'd start with the one that's been sitting empty for 2 years. So now all of a sudden, they're in the building, not gonna affect it.
And it would be mixed use, and you could combine the two. Yeah, so, yes, Mark.
Quick job here. Sorry.
Oh, that's kind of, yeah, you know.
Mark, maybe if you could just come up to maybe share use mic there, just, we're gonna run into, I'll get the nasty.
Sure. Yes, we can combine the two uses. So the critical thing is that the commercial stays at the front of the building. Even if, again, when you're designing, redoing the building, creating, even if you have two units or with a shared bathroom or something like that. And, as long as you're big enough for some kind of business, because a lot of businesses don't need much room, like as they say, a professional office or something like that. I don't know what the bakery needs, whether or not there's a chance of them staying there on a permanent basis, whether they can be reconfigured somehow to, use the front of the building more. Is that,
What kind of, I guess, the way it works, and I don't know how it works, the business in front. You can't have a residential beside commercial, is what you're saying, either go all residential or not, or can they go to half of it?
well, it depends how the council wants to go. If you either have to change the official plan, to go residential transition, then you can have more commercial. Or if you keep it in a central business district, then front has to be commercial.
So you could split if you go transition, is what you're saying? Could have
Yes.
bakery on one side, residential on the other?
Yes, you could.
That's the question I had. So with what they're proposing here, that could happen. They can gradually go into that if they want to.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, Mark, yeah, Chair.
I have a couple questions, I guess. One is, the front of the building, are you expecting to have 3 entrances, or one for each apartment,
Yes, front and back.
front and back?
Front and back, yeah, because there's a 6-foot pad in the back for them to put on chairs or whatever. So like in the front entrance and a back entrance, yes.
Okay, and then the other one is, I noticed in your summary, we talked about, on William Street, number 121, a 2-story, 2-unit, newer residential townhouse. Was that built prior to the official plan, or was that built after the official plan, and this was classified as commercial?
I think it's an older building, but it's got a brand new front on it.
Yeah.
I thought it was,
Grandfathered in.
yeah, I thought when I went and looked at it a week ago, that it was a new building from the front, it looks new. But if you look from the side, you see the old brick behind it.
Is that not the old bowling alley? No. No, okay. You're right. I remember you told me back there. I never was in there like a tour.
Your best friend.
Anyways.
Your dad used to come down
Yeah.
and look for the rest.
Yeah, look for everybody
That's
that's
right.
in school.
Sometimes I got escorted back to that.
Linda.
Yeah, I checked with Terry Pipers on that, and the building was built in 1920, so it was street plan.
Fairly new.
Pre,
So
yeah,
it's just
so it's
a-
grandfathered.
Actually, the building beside it is 5 units in it. And Oscar Noel used to have his dealer shop in there. It used to be commercial.
Yeah, I
And
thought
they
it was
switched over
commercial.
back in, after 67, that's when we moved pumps in 66, 67, so it was after that, I remember Oscar being in there.
Right.
Oscar, he was on Main Street before.
No,
But he was
No,
there.
he's
I was there
over
before
on
Main
Queen
Street.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I emphasize with your application, I don't think I struggled with another situation like this more than I have this one, to the point where I drove over a second time to look at it. One of the concerns I have is the parking issue. How do you propose, like when you go down the alley how do you propose the parking would set up? behind that building.
Well, we're hoping the town has spots back there, spots they rent, we're supposed to rent. But there are enough spots there that we could acquire, or the chance to acquire, or they wanted, if you wanted us to buy them to that rent, then we could do that.
And the other thing, I don't know if you heard me say, but we kind of had a target market of older, like
Correct.
seniors who probably don't have a car but want to be close to uptown. And that's the market we're really looking at, I'll be very honest. Because the apartments will be very nice, and we're hoping that anybody disabled or senior, then they wouldn't need the parking spot. And yet it's very close to essential services that they would require.
And the last part of my question is for, Mark, there's a firewall goes down between each unit, correct? So how would you share the front of two units?
Yeah, I don't know, I guess, I'm not a building person, so,
Yeah,
you know,
there has to be a supporting beam or something.
whether you can put holes through those, you know, just a doorway, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thing to add?
Well, I think
So that's what this is sort of an open
Yeah.
house to just give everybody's thoughts and input. I don't think we need.
There's really quite, because we used to be 3 separate buildings, right? And there's a natural firewall already down, which is important for the building code. And just makes it this, one reason we consider this way of doing things, is because it's very hard to separate the back and the front to get, to get us moving the back to have a decent sized apartment back there.
To have that, what Mark talked about, which I understand, but to have that front, it would be a nightmare, because they were 3 individual buildings. So to give the front as designated purely for commercial and then put in the back, well, that's very difficult.
And the other concern is, I think we did talk to Terry about this before, or reading stuff on building, building stuff. Was concerned whether you could have a residential unit open into a parking lot. I don't know if there's something, I thought I read something there that was an issue, that you had to have street access. You know, you want to turn you on the front and the back for your access to it.
I don't know. I'd have to put it.
And it's just safer. Our target market, I'll be honest, is seniors or disabled. It's safer to have a front entrance and a back entrance. It's just a lot better. Yeah, but just humanitarian wise, if that's what we're looking at as a target market to put in there, and a senior's in there and they need to get out quickly, to have 2 places that are accessible is just, it's far better.
All right, that's good. Thanks very much for your comments.
Thank you very much for your time.
No problem.
Thank you.
Does anyone speak to the opposition to the proposed amendment? Good. No, I don't think, I've asked. Does anybody else? No? Okay. And I think the council has already asked all the questions, so I've already given you that opportunity. I will state that if you wish to be notified of the decision of the county of Washington in respect to the proposed official plan amendment application, you must make a written request to the Director, Planning and Development Department, County of Washington, 74 Woolwich Street, Guelph, Ontario, N1H3T 9519837-260, extension 2080. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Council of Town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, must make a written request to the clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harrison, NOG 10, or by email to bwhite@townofminto.com.
Mayor Bridge, in terms of proceeding, once you adjourn the public meeting, what will have to happen, since we don't have bylaws to adopt the zoning amendment, and you have to, probably next meeting, there will be another report from the planner and maybe staff getting direction on whether you want to support the official plan amendment to the county. And that resolution, whatever it is, in favor or opposed, would go to the county, and then once they deal with that, then the zoning would come back to you for a decision.
Well, I thought this is the idea, just to get all the information here, and then we'll look at a bunch of stuff that was talked about today and have a staff report in another county. I think you said that, Mark, in your report, that you wanted to hear what was happening in the public meeting as well. So is that fair to everybody? And then we'll have another look at this before we go.
You guys said you were doing it right away, so.
No.
You can give us a couple hours.
Just give us the option, right? That's all we want is the option, the flexibility to, get some money in the department.
So what we'll do is we'll have another, we'll get a bunch more information, put it all together, and have a chance for everybody to review it. Okay? If there's no further comments, I will adjourn the public meeting. Thank you very much.
Yes. We're gonna legalize marijuana, so maybe we're.
All right, so our next, zoning bylaw. I know, this is just gonna be. Yeah, this is right, it's in between. Yeah, I'm just gonna change the order a little bit. We're gonna go to public hearing.
Sorry, Mayor Bridge. Unfortunately, we have to move into committee of adjustments.
Oh, for that one?
So
Okay, never
we
mind.
gotta move back.
All right, never mind, we'll just do it that way. Rules, I love them. We'll have to follow
Oh, we don't have.
them. Well, we don't, we will. Thanks for keeping me on. Okay, so the, next is zoning amendment, 2014-04, Dan Sinkler, conditions of severance, B 2831-14. So, I'll act as chair of the public meetings, call public order, and request any member of the public present to sign the attendance record book. The person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Minto before the bylaw is passed. The person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the town of Minto, the Ontario Municipal Board, and the persons or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. I'll turn over to CEO Clerk White to state the municipal address and legal description of the property and purpose and effect of the application and date notice was sent.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The property subject to the proposed amendment is described as lots 10, 11, and 12, south side of Main Street, lot 16, east side of York Street, park lot 17, east of York Street, Walker's Plan, Palmer. The address is a combination of 504, 512 Main Street, and 130 York Street. The proposed amendment is to rezone the vacant lands to residential free zone, including a reduction in the required minimum lot frontage. The amendment is being requested to permit construction of a 5-unit residential dwelling. Notices were mailed to property owners within 400 feet, 120 meters of the property, and applicable agencies, posted on the lands March 26th. Comments were received from Faye Cronsberry, Palmerston resident. I would like to comment on the proposed amendment to rezone the subject property to a high-density residential 5-unit building jammed in that small space of land. York Street from Raglan to Main is no longer a quiet residential street, with the Norwell High School taking up a 2-block space over to Cumberland Street and down to Main Street. School buses lining up York Street morning and afternoon, letting off and picking up students 5 days a week. Also, there is a lousy student parking.
I think it's
Busy.
busy. It could be loud. I think it's busy.
Busy student parking lot. Excellent. Sorry.
I just get those here, the smartest guy in the minute, what the heck was that?
Putting this, Bob mentioned property off with the students' sports field down the hill on Webster Street. When traveling up York Street from Main Street, I have seen delivery trucks parked on the roadside taking supplies to the tech section of the high school situated on that corner of the street. Cars and trucks coming down and going up York Street come dangerously close to a collision trying to pass there. I really don't think this proposed amendment to rezone this land is a very smart idea. Also had a letter from David Weaver, 520 Main Street, in regards to the proposed amendment. I have a concern about how the proposed zoning amendment and proposed land use may decrease property values on neighboring and adjoining properties. I have a concern about overdeveloping all possible green space that is left in a maturely developed part of town. The proposed land use of a single-family home would seem to be more symmetrical for this part of town. Application was also reviewed by Town of Minto Staff Committee. in the following comment was provided: site plan and development agreement for the proposed 5-unit building will be needed to address fire hydrant location, entrance, access, and drainage requirements, building location, parking lot layout, buffering, stormwater management, expansion of water and sewer development, and any other requirements. County of Wellington Manager of Planning Mark Van Patter's report is also attached.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Really a busy planner's gonna say a few words.
Yeah, sorry. Your work for your bucks.
So this is a bit of a the confusing area. I know Mr. Sinclair's, he's doing some line assembly. There's several severances and a lot of line additions involved. So we'll go through it and try to explain sort of what's happening. The subject land only has got, we put it all together, it would be 0.75 acres. And Mr. Sinclair's proposing a 5-unit residential building, go in there and get access off of York Street. In terms of the severance, the last severance, B3114, will take the one side of the Prince property and add it to the landlocked property of Mr. Sinclair. And so we'll end up with that larger property in the back. In terms of the county official plan, all the land is designated residential, and the plan encourages modest intensification in stable residential areas, respecting the character of the area. The zoning bylaw, there's 2 zones involved. Mr. Sinclair's property by the school parking lots is zoned institutional, and Mr. Prince's property is zoned R2, along the front there. In terms of intensification and compatibility, I look around the neighborhood, I see that it's quite a mixed neighborhood. You have the school track, school parking lot, school. There's commercial use out on Main Street. There's some residential uses on both sides of this proposed property, so it's a mixed neighborhood. It's not what I would call solid residential neighborhood.
Very multicultural, isn't it?
I can't speak to that. So what we're talking about is, and I should mention too, the residential properties are all R2 properties. So those properties, the bylaw, if they could fit them on the property, would be allowed up to 4 units. So Mr. Sinclair is only proposing 1 more unit. And this property is quite a bit bigger, close to 75. When you think about a 50 by 100 foot lot, that's 5,000 square feet. Right? 5,000 square feet, so 75,000 square feet. It's a fairly big area, reasonably big area. It's good in the sense that it's an efficient use of the land, and it's a greater range of housing types. One of the issues though is the lot frontage is fairly narrow. The bylaw requires 59 feet, and the frontage on York Street is only 23.86 feet. So I don't know if the town's, works department has concerns about that. Whether that's big enough for access for a 5-unit building. That's just an issue I think that we talked a bit about. The only other one was the tree saving on the property. When I was out there, I noticed there's a fair number of mature hardwoods. I couldn't tell this time of year whether, I think some are maple, but I couldn't tell whether some might be ash. And if they're ash, I don't think I'd be too worried about it.
Those last as long, much longer.
So what I've suggested in the zoning bylaws to require a tree saving plan, but to be fairly informal about it, so that it be to the town's satisfaction. So if we find that there's ash trees on the property, I don't think I'd be too concerned about those being taken down. There's one hardwood that's kind of in the middle. I don't think you can do much to take that
I was
one
gonna say, the one was very good. I
Yeah.
don't think the last
Pretty well
one
has to go.
it's up here, but it's great for you for the building.
But yeah, the other trees are healthy, and they want, like to see them stay if they can. So there's no reason why. So I'd like to see that working for the design. In terms of the draft bylaw, it's pretty simple. We're going from R2, an institutional, to R3 exception, and the exception would allow the 23-foot frontage and require a tree saving plan for the satisfaction of the town. That's about it. Your worship.
Questions here?
I just want, first of all, I'm not calling you the last time I called you the letter, I was just referring to the letter and the error and the busy.
No, that's why I said it. I was hoping that somebody would get it.
I was just wondering the layout of the units. My first reaction when I saw the property, as the way you mentioned, is the size of it, but you say there's lots of room. But is it one story or is it multi-level, the 5 units?
I'm not sure.
Dan, you wanna go back to Dan, it's up, because he's gonna be coming up, Mary Lou.
Okay.
And then that's why, normally we review questions at the end, we've kind of been doing them now, but I'm thinking if you wanna have everybody speak first, and then Mark will be right there, and we'll put him up here. If that works out better. Okay. Dan, did you wanna?
Mayor Bridgewell, Dan is coming up. I neglected to mention that there is a letter from the Upper Grand District School Board that has no objection.
Okay. So I think we'll play it like this, that worked good the other time, just, you can see Mark from here, so there might be a bit of both. Okay. You getting your questions clarified there?
Well, I just asked Dan where the building can be situated on the property, that kind of gives me an idea.
Okay, so, Dan, do you want to make some comments, or do you want to answer questions?
Yeah, so I'm not very good on camera and kind of people. So in regards to the concerns that people have, in the one letter stated, the gentleman thought it would be better to have a single family dwelling. Coming from a guy like me, I would rather have that. In talking with the county planners, they want to maximize density. So would I like a single house with a nice little garage on it? Absolutely. But after talking with the planning, Linda and Mark, they thought it'd be a good idea to have at least an R3 zoning, which is a 5-unit building or more, depending on the size of your property. I think a lot of people don't really realize how big that property is back there, so it looks very deceiving.
Yeah, I blocked it.
Yeah. The other concern with the cars and trucks, I mean, we could talk all around the town about concerns with cars and trucks. The bus loading zones on and off at the Norwell School are not even close to this entrance, so I can't see it being a concern myself. So.
And I think too, and I see where the county's coming from, we do need some rental accommodation. A previous person had mentioned that as well. So it is a need out there, so I think that's why it'd be nice to have the intensity as well.
Well, I think for me too, I just want to maximize the use of property. We're actually severing another lot off the front on Main Street too, or we're working on a severance, and it's an MU2 zone, which allows me I could build a 4-plex 2 and 2, you know. Will I do that? No. As a builder, I'll maintain that bungalow style housing. So anything we've done in the town in 18 years is now pretty standard of what I do. So, you know.
All right, I'll open up the questions. Then Mary,
I just, were you planning to make it just one story, or was it going to be multi-level?
Well, right now, with R3 zoning, as long as you have the area and the footprint for the building, you could do a couple of levels. If I was maybe going to do a 2-story building, I'd put an elevator in for seniors, like it's more of a residential seniors condo building or, strictly rentals, right? So that's kind of our market that we're looking at for that property.
Thanks, Mayor Rich. And I think the buses go in a certain direction. I don't think you see buses coming both ways.
No.
So when you stand on the curb in front of your property, you can see traffic very well.
Yes.
And I think likely that's the biggest thing. I think it's a good use for this property. The biggest thing is the entrance. And when you stand there and look both ways, it isn't difficult to see traffic. And I think likely that's the biggest thing.
We want to go right around the horn, Terry?
Well, this question may be for CEO White more than anyone else, but with that size of entrance, for services, will the charge be $21 per meter frontage? And if it is, we getting good value for servicing 5 units at 7 meters?
In this instance, if I may, through Mayor Bridge, we would be signing a development agreement with the developer. So in that, we'll stipulate the exact cost for servicing. In this case, I believe he has to bring a sanitary sewer a little bit of a distance down to do it, so that would be his cost. And then, so we wouldn't apply the frontage rate here in this case. It would be an actual cost. And you would be paying the lion's share.
Which I'm like, which
Yeah,
I'm
talking
aware
stuff.
of.
Okay. Have you got anything?
No, just to follow up on Mary Lou's question, so it could be either a 1 level or 2 level.
Yeah, like if that's zoning. See, I actually requested, I wanted an R2, I was talking about an R2, but the county has advised me that to maximize use of that property to make an R3, because it's harder to get it to an R3 than it is after.
Yeah. No, we're good.
Well, I was just concerned that bring them up to see Dan's, I want to see where he's going
Yeah.
to place the building. Because, you don't want the cars driving into people's backyards, where you've got to sit and they'll be driving in front of the building, so the people that have their backyards facing onto your property won't see the vehicles. And that's all I was concerned with, the little site plan control you would have on it anyway, so I'm not going to be having this much work to put the building. So,
Yeah, like I personally, if I lived in that myself, I would want the front to face the school parking lot,
yes.
so that when I'm in my backyard,
It
it would back onto the other backyard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And it was also discussed that one of the comments that the value of the property would put down anything on no new building and it's superb. So I would believe the value of the property would go up, go back. We need something in there beside the parking lot and that have an empty ground, something like that. So I don't believe that would be the case. The other thing I might ask is, will there be lighting and curbs and all that stuff? Do we have to get back? If it would just be that street going in? What are we supposed to do?
Mayor Bridge, we would be negotiating with the site development, Councilor Elliott, so there may or may not be curbs, depends on what we have in mind there for the site. But there normally would be curbs and sidewalks and landscaping and fencing and that kind of stuff.
We definitely need lighting of some sort.
And lighting is another issue.
Okay, thanks.
And I'll add too that, like right now, we're, the house at 512 Main Street that has this property attached to it, we're totally renovating it right now. So, I mean, I always believe that with new development comes increased value, because it's a better street, and it's a streetscape, and it looks, so.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go over it when Terry was over there and walk through it, and I have no qualms about the fact that what you're doing already is improving the quality that's out there. So, gentlemen that had concerns with that, once you see the final product, I think we've started that development already, and I think continue on.
And once I get the, if everything goes through, I mean, before I start the project anyway, I would present everything.
Yeah, we're
as
having a
far as
chance
what
to
I want
look
to
at
do
the site
anyway,
and
right?
all that
So,
stuff.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for either Mark or Dan? Okay, thank you. Thanks, members.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
Anyone wishes to comment, we just in favor, comment in opposition to the proposed amendment? We had a couple letters which we did read out. Anybody else? The applicant or his agent is given opportunity for rebuttal. We don't have that. Okay. I will state that if you wish to be notified of the decision of the council of town, may respect the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the town, Minto at 5941 Highway 89 Harrison, Minto G1. Or by email, bwhite@townminto.on.ca.
Just to mention, this one, as we mentioned, is tied up with several severances, so that bylaw will come back.
Right.
Once those severances are approved.
Yep.
And that will help fulfill those conditions.
Okay.
One thought, it might be useful for Mr. Sinclair, council to give 2 readings to the amendment.
We don't have the bylaw on this.
Okay, look for another item.
Yes, they do
No,
too.
just to, or either that or comments to align with the commission committee that we support.
Right. Okay, we will. We already did that. Okay, good. All right. There's no further comments. I will adjourn the public meeting. Okay. Now we're here. Moved by Councilor Turner, second by Councilor Caldwell, the committee of the whole convenes in the committee of adjustment to conduct a public hearing, file number A514. In favor? All right. And here. How do you want to do this? I'll chair the public meeting. Any decision reached in the committee cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits. No 2 applications are actually the same. Public hearing is to consider a minor variance application, file number A514, Michael and Cheryl Reed. I'll call Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The reason there is not a lot of information in the package for council on this is while we were in the notice period and after we had our staff meeting to review the application, we noticed an error in the notice, and it refers to front yard setback, and we believe it should refer to side yard setback. But we had already given notice to people, so we have to convene a hearing in case there's anyone who is attending regarding this application, so that they could leave their name and address. We will have to recirculate this and have another hearing at another date as soon as possible. I know the applicant was present. I didn't know whether that had been passed on from our staff to you, but that's where we sit at this point. We looked at it and we feel that the notice is not clear enough to describe the application, and so that it's not in jeopardy at a later date. We believe it should be redone at the town's cost.
I'll apologize to you, Cheryl, if you didn't get notice. I take it not.
No.
Yes, so we'll look into that. That's too bad, because we talked earlier and I said, because I knew this was going to be probably put off, and I'm sorry we're having you to out. We weren't too boring. So, is anybody else here on this particular one? I don't think I see it. Okay, so we'll get that on as quickly as possible, the next one, and get this dealt with. My apologies. Okay. All right, so we'll adjourn that meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Caldwell, second by Councilor Church, the Committee of Adjustment convenes the Committee of the Whole to consider the balance of the agenda. All in favor? This is the one where you started signing in my name. She then she caught herself.
You run for mayor, right?
Okay, well, we have another delegation, and we have Deanna and Carolyn here, and we shall come on, and they're from the county, and they're going to give us some exciting news and baseball out here.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council. Just gonna load our presentation, make sure you're, I think your computer might be. Thanks for
Council's look at academic.
No, we're good. So, oh, you need the mic, and if you want to just grab it, if you're gonna come off the, little thing.
If the same for yourself.
All right.
Go ahead, fire it up.
Yeah, stand by, so we can see on the, can we see Deanna there?
We're missing her voice, so you gotta.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, good. All right. You're on Whiteman's TV later, right? So that's fine. Okay, you're on.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here last time you were here, and that was when it was sunny and it was warm, and that was in August. And when Carolyn and I came in August, it was to notify you of the launch of the County of Wellington's Business Retention Expansion Project. And here we are, half a year later, in spring, somewhat, and we're excited to give you the results of that project. And we're also here to say thank you to your council for the leadership and for support for this project, and also for the town's tremendous work conducting all of the interviews, the CAO and the Economic Development Department from all of the work that was involved. We got some great feedback. So what Carolyn and I will be presenting to you tonight are the county-wide results. Carolyn is also meeting individually with all the municipalities, including Minto, and providing a community-specific report as well that will be 80% written by the county, and then 20% will be given to you to decide on what opportunities, what priority areas you want to focus on, and what kind of action plan you want to do going forward. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of detail to remind you of what our VRD looked like. We had a very tight timeline and we stuck to it. We started the project in September. We completed all the interviews in February of this year. As I mentioned, every single municipality was involved, a lot of collaboration. It really was a fantastic project in that sense. When we wrote an application to the Ministry of Economic Development, Trade and Employment last year, we had a goal of conducting 215 interviews. We clearly surpassed that. We finished 270 in-person business interviews, and I think that shows that they were well received by our business community. We also used the Ministry of Rural Affairs survey tool to do the interviews. We collected a lot of information, a lot of wonderful sentiments, a lot of somewhat concerns and challenges about doing business in Wellington County. And what we did was we compiled that and started to look at opportunities going forward for economic development. So why did we do this project in the first place? 76% of all new jobs and capital investment is attributed to existing businesses. And what this means is that when you go into doing business attraction efforts or supporting entrepreneurship, that accounts for 24% of new investment. But the bulk of the power to grow your local economy rests in those businesses that have already invested in your community. We did this because we wanted to know what Wellington's like to do business. We wanted to understand also what kind of decisions, have better information to make decisions at the county level and at the municipal level. And we wanted to also have that impact our local economy, make efforts to impact our local economy, and also to shape our economic development focus going forward. So this project was very large in scale. We have a large community in Wellington. We also interviewed a lot of businesses. We interviewed 62 manufacturers, I think 60 agricultural businesses, 45 healthcare businesses, 75 businesses in the creative economy, 20 downtown businesses, as well as 10 transportation companies. And on top of that, we interviewed 8 people that have only been in Canada in the last 5 years and started their business to get their idea or their perspective for doing business in Wellington. I think Minto had 44 total interviews, which is, I think, came second because Aaron had 40. It came first because Aaron had 41. Yes, that's right. So kudos to the interview team.
Yes, very good, Minto.
Not only is it
I just want to give Mandy
Yes,
really
Mandy.
a lot of credit for that because on top of everything else she had to do, she managed to do the most surveys out of anyone. So I just wanted to make sure she got special recognition.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not just going through the interview, it's getting your foot in the door, which is a lot of companies, they get surveyed all the time. And this process involves sitting down with employers face to face and understanding what kind of experience they have doing business in their community and what kind of ideas they have. And to extract that kind of information from an employer, regardless of how long they've been here, is really, it can be a challenge. So again, great work. On the listening end, we had all of our partners that regularly sit on our economic development group on a monthly basis. Every person's logo, every community agency's logo you can see on this screen. We, at the county level, we're managing the project, writing the reports, data analysis, and then we had one representative coordinating all the interviews in the community. And on top of that, we also had the Wellington Federation of Agriculture involved in this project because they wanted to do additional interviews to understand sector or industry specific issues within the agriculture sector. And then we also had the Guelph Wellington Local Immigration Partnership involved as well. So what did we hear? In terms of business climate, Wellington had a really good report card. 77% of businesses said we're either an excellent or good place to do business. When we asked people, how has your attitude changed in the past few years with respect to doing business, you can see that the majority said that there really was no change and that there were more so positive changes in attitude than negative, and that can be attributed to support from the municipality and the community, improved economy, and quality of life. On the negative side, we heard about permit processes and fees, utility costs, difficulty hiring, and lack of government and business relationships. So we sat down with business owners and we talked about a lot of things, and we rated their perspective on different factors with respect to doing business. This is all within the comprehensive report, and you can find it on the county website now. But at the top of the list, rating in the excellent category, we had fire, police, support from the local community, snow removal, health unit, regional, provincial, local roads. So as a report card, we rate very good in terms of doing business. We did hear it over and over again that a business had established themselves elsewhere and that they decided to relocate to Wellington County because we have such a high quality of life and it's such a great place to raise your family. Then on the negative side, so we should end it there. So I mentioned we spoke to a lot of different sectors, and there were concerns that were sector specific. But this list that we're going to show you is what every sector had mentioned in terms of a concern for doing business in Wellington County. First was, and these aren't in any special order, but we heard that there's not enough commercial industrial spaces for businesses to either start up or to expand in within Wellington County, and that kind of fits with our economic development strategy. Yep, kind of fits with our economic development strategy as well, because we heard that we're a great place for business to start up, but to expand, businesses have limited locations, limited options. We also heard that commercial banks are seen as risk averse, that they're not providing flexibility when it comes to different kinds of financing arrangements, and that this isn't just for new businesses that might look a little bit more risky, this is also for established businesses. We also heard from a newcomer's perspective that unless you're dealing with specific credit unions, your credit history will not be recognized in Canada, and that can obviously pose challenges, and you'll have to look at other avenues for financing your operation. We also heard that businesses don't know about the Community Futures training program, monthly training programs, or the mentorship, or the coaching, one-on-one coaching that's available there, or the Wellington Business Enterprise Center. High-speed internet was an issue, despite the fact that the county recently, with funding from the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, provided coverage to 75% of the county that did not have high speed before, but there are certainly a lot of gaps still, and this poses a problem. Businesses that want to operate from their homes, businesses that want to operate where there's currently a gap, that is a problem. We also heard adequate electricity and natural gas was a common concern. not just the lack of competitiveness in the hydro sector, so not just price, it was also that when a business is notified ahead in advance that there is going to be a power outage, that they can't necessarily depend on how long that power outage will last, and that this certainly can be detrimental for some of our businesses. One manufacturer had said that it costs them about $1,500 a minute to be out of power, and that you can't plan accordingly, and that last year it cost them about $350,000. So we also heard about negative comments about development and building permit processes, as well as development charges, taxes, and land costs. So I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn to talk about the wonderful living here aspects.
Well, it's no surprise that most of the people we talked to, and I actually didn't interview anyone who wasn't happy with living here. And people have a lot of pride about Minto. I had the opportunity to do a few Minto interviews, and that came out loud and clear. One of the things that came out in open comments were how important our libraries and farmers markets are, and how they're viewed as a place people can go to get information. Some of that's just because of the changing demographics and less people going to church, and they're congregating in those places. We had somebody say to us that they loved our library so much that they would take a first date there. We thought they were that beautiful. There were some concerns again in terms of living here, and again, no surprise, affordable housing options came up, and that wasn't just rental properties, but starter homes as well. Public transit, and these results will be different as we get into each of the municipalities. We're going to see that in some areas this is more of a concern than others. The same situation for childcare. We had an opportunity to ask the businesses what their plans were over the next 18 months, and overall, very, very positive remarks. 48% planning to remain the same. However, I believe it was 43% planning to expand in the next 18 months. So that's a positive outlook. 52% indicated that they felt there would be growth in their specific industry. But surpassing that, 58% of our businesses said that their individual sales were going to increase. So they're looking at doing better than even their own industry. We asked questions, a lot of detailed questions about workforce. And if you think about the fact that businesses are looking to grow over the next year or year and a half, but that we're already concerned about our availability of qualified workers, this is something that we need to be aware of and have a heads up. In terms of availability of qualified workers, you can see that 41% said poor or fair, and so that's not a good situation for us to be in. And again, 20% concerned with the stability of the workforce, and 31% concerned about the ability to attract. It talks about attract and retain, but really what we heard was the ability to attract. Each of the employers had an opportunity to tell us 1 to 3 jobs that they had in demand today, and a lot of them actually did provide that information, very specific positions, and you'll see that many of them are high-paying, highly skilled positions that someone could come here and make a very good living in Wellington County. When February came around and all of the interviews were finally completed in each of the municipalities, we had an opportunity to put together a report, pull the data, and present that to our Economic Development Working Group. And they met for a full day. We presented that data to them in a way that they could digest it, because there was 270 businesses that had answered a lot of questions. And we put that information into themes. And we looked at not only the numbers and the trends, but we also looked at all the open-ended comments. And they really did influence and shape the understanding of what the numbers said. So from that day, we were able to put an action plan together based on the opportunities that were presented. And here's a little snapshot of what that day looked like.
Let's talk.
cookies, that's unusual.
One of the things we forced everyone to do that day was to sit at a table and wear the hat of a specific industry, so that as we reviewed all of the results, we could think about it from the lens of the agriculture sector, manufacturing, healthcare, and the creative economy, and that was very helpful for us to be able to come up with opportunities. We put those opportunities into themes, and the first theme was around networking and training. We heard that time and time again, that businesses were looking for opportunities to connect with one another. Sometimes this was related to supply chain. They didn't know who else was doing something similar or could support their business in Wellington. And the other one was about training. We heard that as businesses grow from small to medium size, they don't necessarily have managers who have leadership training, those kinds of things. As well, there's other safety standards that they have to comply with as they grow their businesses. We're looking at the possibility of doing a Wellington Business Symposium in the near future where we can present some of these things and really launch it. 135 businesses, which was quite a few when you consider the 270, specifically asked for training around safety, leadership, and specific skills. So we heard them loud and clear. The other theme was around infrastructure and advocacy, so issues that were brought forward that we aren't necessarily poised to do action on today, but that we need to be aware of and pass along to others. One of the things that we know some of the municipalities are already looking at doing and some have already completed is the first impressions and municipal community improvement plans. So we're hoping that those can continue to roll out throughout the county. And we need to discuss with developers and others opportunities to encourage residential commercial mixes so we can get some vibrancy in our downtowns. And to advocate all of the VRE results with the various ministries. We had the Ministry of Rural Affairs very involved in what we were doing, but there are others that we'll want to speak to. Explore alternative housing options. Encourage consistency in municipal building development services came up as a great opportunity where there are a variety of ways things are done in the different municipalities, and each of the 7 thought that they could put their heads together and share some best practices in that regard. And then exploring and promoting financial options beyond the traditional bank, making people aware of community futures and other opportunities like that as well. And Yana's up next.
Okay, so we heard that 40% of the businesses that we spoke with said that they currently have troubles hiring, and that this is because of either too few applications or that it was due to lack of skills. The Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses said that right now there's a shortage of 300,000 jobs across Canada, and that in many areas, and I think Wellington County fits into this, it's not that we have an unemployment problem, it's that we have a labor shortage problem, and typically it's small businesses that bear the brunt of dealing with that problem. And we hear about layoffs and we hear about closings, but we also heard that our manufacturing sector is doing very well across Canada. And we heard the same in Wellington County. 70% of the manufacturers that we spoke to said that they expect their sales to increase within the next 18 months. So that's pretty significant. Because the labor market doesn't always do a good job of matching jobs to workers, we identified the fact that we can help with offering skill gap programs and also linking companies with apprenticeships through appropriate agencies available right now. The other area where businesses said there was need was in overcoming the misperceptions with respect to certain careers, specifically manufacturing, agriculture again, where people need to be aware of the high compensation packages available or the innovative technologies involved. And they had mentioned, the businesses had mentioned that we should be introducing careers demanded and available within our communities to high school students at a young age. We also heard about promotional opportunities, so that businesses had said we need to start promoting Wellington County, both in terms of investment and in terms of lifestyle. And we also heard about familiarization tours, conducting them in Wellington County, whether they be sector specific or for general investment, and greater promotion of the services for business support that we had mentioned earlier. as well as almost half of the businesses that we interviewed said that they would like the county to start focusing on wayfinding signage within the next 5 years. So there are things that are already underway with respect to economic development across the county. Every day we are responding to business inquiries. We found 21 urgent issues. They're called red flags through this process. Businesses either downsizing, having trouble hiring, needing assistance that we're dealing with right now. We are working on developing 4 key sector investment profiles that we'll have completed before the end of the year. And we will be launching a economic development web page with video testimonials, a business directory, and an electronic newsletter, and we'll be doing that in June of this year. We have one video to actually show you a series of business video testimonials that we're conducting. Never mind, we're not going to be showing it. Is YouTube banned?
No, it's not.
Oh, that's okay.
We're almost gonna eat fiber
So I just click back.
Show something.
There. We're also going to be participating in trade conventions, and already underway is an assessment of cost-shared rural transportation models that we're doing in conjunction with the Rural Ontario Institute, as well as developing a vacant land and building inventory, and lastly also continuing to develop the Taste for Local Food program. 60% of our businesses said it's an important sector to support, and that they do source locally already. Mayor, would you like me to just quickly?
Sure.
Okay.
This is my
Baby.
baby, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think this project's also unique in that we didn't just do all the interviews, but council was forward thinking and adopted a $175,000 business retention expansion local implementation fund, so that when the project was done, the municipalities could hit the ground running based on the information they had collected and the actions identified. So we have at the county level written an application, and municipalities are welcome to begin applying for that funding. They can access up to $25,000 for implementing their BRE activities locally. So Minto has a community improvement plan, but that's an example, or a job fair, or promoting your community. Whatever actions are developed out of your municipal specific report, you can apply for the countywide grant. So Carolyn and I want to thank you. Again, tremendous work done by the town. Thank all of the businesses that were involved in the town of Minto. We heard some really great feedback, some positive remarks, and we're excited to share those results with the community-specific report. In front of you today, you'll see the countywide snapshot, which is in poster format, so you can go home and hang that on your wall. We also have the county report and the presentation today. Thank you.
Good job.
Any questions for Heather? Great job. We're the first one out, right?
First presentation.
Well, we're number 1 in the county, so we might